Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. I want to give double honor to the apostles of Great Millstone who are in New York and rule well over the nation of Yasharallah, who is Israel in English, and are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. In today's video and lesson, I want to get into some artifacts that prove that the Latinos and Native Americans are part of Israel. Now, this artifact right here is known as the Chief Joseph tablet. I'm going to go ahead and just read it. And it says, in 1877, Chief Joseph, led by Nez Perce, a native Indian tribe, revealed his ancient artifact to General Nelson A. Miles. It was a pendant, a 1-inch square clay tablet with Assyrian writing. Chief Joseph said the tablet had been passed down in his family for many generations. So let's take a look at this. So this right here, this is Assyrian writing, right? It's basically Babylonian writing. It has those little arrows and stuff like that. And like I said again, this is basically just 1 inch. Now, it's a sales receipt and a list for sacrificial animals. So basically, whoever bought this, whoever used this, this was a receipt that was given to them for buying animals to be used in sacrificial ceremonies. Now, where does this come from, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at. Let me go ahead and read this to you. This is 2nd Esdras 13 and 40, and this happened during about circa 729 BC. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea the king, whom Salmansar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land, that being Assyria. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered in through the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs to them, and he held still the floods till they were passed over. For through that country, there was great ways to go, namely 1.5 years, and the same region is called Azareth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. That now is talking about right now, because now we're coming back to our heritage. So, just like it says here, how we came over here from Assyria. It's written in 2nd Esdras, one of the 14 books that were taken out of the Bible. Now, we were here, the 10 tribes, who are the northern tribes, or known today as the Negroes and Latinos. Now, what happened is we basically went off and we started worshiping idols, and God ultimately, he destroyed us because we were worshiping idols, and he caused the Assyrians, who were basically in partnership with they were known for being one of 2 entities of the Babylonian Empire, right? The Assyrians are their own people. They would be known today as the Aram in the Bible, or the just modern day Syrians. Those guys are getting fucked up over there in the Middle East right now. But they took us down back in, if we go here, if we go back to about 722 BC, the Assyrian captivity happened, right? So Israel was punished for idol worships, which will lead them to be known as the Latinos and Native Indians at the end of their punishment. So let's go ahead and read through that, and let's find out. So this right here is 2 Kings 17, and this explains what we did to cause us to be taken out of the land. 2 Kings 17 and 1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea the son of Elah to reign over Samaria. Samaria are the northern tribes, the Latinos and Native Americans, over Israel 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. So when we now this guy here, Ahaz, you got to remember the let me see if I can find a picture of this king. I'll get it later, but let me continue. But he basically went back to worshiping idols and going back to worshiping Baal. And that's why I said he did evil in the sight of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Because again, the kings of Israel, or the northern tribe, they had tried to keep the Sabbaths, and they did try to do good. But the problem is that you had that spirit of Satan working in them, and it ultimately led to idol worship. So, speaking of the king, so here's Ahaz. He was the king of Judah during this time, and he's talked about in 2 Kings 16:1 and also in 2 Chronicles 28:7. But then next to him was a Hoshea. This is the king. This is the wicked king that caused this to go off. And let me read a little bit about him. He was the 33rd king of Israel and the 19th and last king of Samaria. Son of Elah, he was the head of the pro-Assyrian party, and took the crown by killing Pekah, who was a previous king before him. He ruled over and reduced the kingdom of the tribes of Ephraim, Issachar, and Manasseh by the will of Tiglath-Pileser III. This is one of the Egyptians and stuff that by this time we were taken over already, and this guy here, he was just a puppet. He's a vassal who was basically doing the will of the Assyrian party, who again the Egyptians were underneath the Assyrians, and this guy here was basically just doing their will. I'm sorry, not Egyptian, Salaki, the Assyrian king, who died in 1727 BC. Hoshea seized this event to seek support from Egypt and stopped tribute to Assyria. This plot was discovered by Salmanasar V, new king of Assyria, who arrested Hoshea, destroyed Samaria, and deported the remaining tribes of 27,290 people. He then moved in foreigners to populate the land, and sent back a corrupt priest of Israel to teach them laws of the Lord. The result was that the new people became as corrupt as the Israelites who had been thrown out. And that's and it tells you in the Bible that those heathens that got moved into the land of Assyria, they were basically eaten by lions that went there. That's why they ultimately brought back the priests, because the rulers of Assyria knew that whoever dwelt in that land that belonged to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai would have to follow his rules for them not to be destroyed. But that's why you later on you have a story of the woman by the well in Samaria who Yahushua was speaking to. She was a heathen, but she was in that land, and that's one of the reasons. So let's get back to the scripts, and it tells you, and then it goes here. So against him came up Salmanasar, king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, right? Because remember, Hoshea was going to, after the king died in Assyria, he went to Egypt to seek help. That's the conspiracy he's talking about. For he had sent messengers to So king of Egypt, and brought no presents to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land, and went up to Samaria, and besieged it 3 years. And in the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria, and carried away Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah, and in the harbor by the river Gozan, and in the city of the Medes. So that right there is so what's happened there is this actually gets once we started getting compassed by armies, in Assyria started coming against us. You know, they cut off our water, they cut off our food. That's why you had the famine in Samaria, which is recorded in 2 Kings 2 and 6. And then later on, you get the story of Judith, right? Because as the attacks had continually kept coming, the Assyrians, they almost won. And then in this case, in the book of Judith, it explains how Judith was able to use her cunning wit to kill Heliophanes and behead him, right? But that only saved us for a little bit, because about a decade later, the Assyrians eventually won and destroyed it, like it read in the Bible. Now, once we were there, Judah, they stayed in their land. They started becoming more holy. But then in the Apocrypha, the northern tribes living in this case, Tobit, he had lived in Iran, or in the land of the Medes, as it tells you in the Bible, right? And it gives you a story, and this is why Tobit is not in the land, because he was carried away. Now, during this time, we hadn't been in dirt poor slavery. We did actually gain power, as it tells you in Tobit. He had a bit of money. He had been a bit of he had gotten power, and that was how it was for all of Israel, right? And this is why we decided to leave. And this happened about circa 700 BC. This is when we took off, and that's when the second Esdras 13 and 40 happened. But see, so that right there is the reason why you have Indians who had tablets with Assyrian writing from their family for many generations, because this was from the time when we were slaves in Assyria, right? When we were here. Now, another thing I want you to notice is look at the sacred medicine bag that has the sigil of the Assyrian flag, right? Chief Joseph goes on to explain in the article that I read about this, is how this is a sacred symbol a sacred and old symbol amongst his people, right? And this is why, right? It's the Assyrian flag, right? You got the Babylonian worship of Nimrod up here, right? Because again, Assyria was taken over by Babylon, right? So, but yeah, that's how the tribe of Gad got over here, and that's how us Latinos, we are part of the 12 tribes of Israel. But again, remember, we're not Latinos. We're Israelites. We're Yasharallah. Hope this video was edifying. Shalom. Shalom Yasharallah.